Welcome to the History of Computing Online. My name is Peter Christensen, and I am going to be your host for this evening. Today we are going to be talking about the history of United States ships and their combat systems. Now, you probably think that this means that we are going to be talking about the newer Aegis combat systems developed in the late 80s and early 90s, or you're going to probably be thinking we're going to be talking about the new ammunition that the United States Navy uses that allows one of their destroyers to fire around 100 miles inland and still hit its target thanks to GPS. But the truth is, we're not going to be talking about either one of these. What we're going to be talking about is the original combat system that made both of these possible. And that would be the Ford Instruments Mark 1A targeting computer. Now, what makes this targeting computer unique is that it is purely analog. The reason for this is because when you draw a circle in digital, it ends up being a bunch of really short lines in a round shape. When you translate that to a turret of a World War II battleship, what ends up happening is that you have a turret that when it's trying to track and move, it jerks and it stutters. This creates serious accuracy issues and makes it much less desirable. So instead they went with analog language, because when you draw a circle in analog, it ends up being a true circle. Now, you might be thinking that this is probably something like so many other inventions that was created in someone's backyard. But that is just not the truth. In 1910, this combat system was actually commissioned by the United States Navy for the Ford Instrument Company, ran by Hannibal Ford and William Newell. Once they developed this new system, they put it to use on the battleships such as the Iowa and North Carolina class. Now, what is also impressive about this system is, despite the fact that it's analog, it allowed the United States Navy at the time, and still does, the option to fire a 26,000-pound shell. That's right, that shell weighs more than the Fiat 500s that are currently being sold on market. Over 30 miles inshore with an expected accuracy of 70 meters of its intended target. When you consider that the 2,600-pound shells, some of them had an effective radius around them of more than that 70 meters, it made it so that the accuracy, what little it lost, really wasn't a big deal. And considering the technology at the time, it was actually very impressive. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, well, you're talking about something that's firing 2,600-pound rounds all the way across over ocean and 30 miles inland. That thing's got to be really, really bulky and heavy. But as it turns out, it was actually fairly compact, as it was only 3 feet wide, 4 feet tall, and 6 feet long. But what they did is they packed this small little targeting computer filled with gears, cams, and electric servos that would allow an operator to enter in range, elevation of the target, meaning that if it was higher above it, like an aircraft or something on a hill per se, and as well as the bearing, meaning where in relationship to the ship this object was. Was it in front of it, beside it, where? This all made it so that it was incredibly accurate. While at the time, things like wind speed and stuff like that probably couldn't be entered in, but these other items made it so that all help contribute to the battleship's efficiency in combat. Now, moving on, almost 70 years later, this technology came into question when the predecessor of the current Aegis combat systems decided to, when Congress decided to do a feasibility study during the development of the combat system prior to the current Aegis. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, so, all this new digital technology came out in the 80s, surely they upgraded this system. But as it turned out, that the people in charge of the research of converting the battleship's old analog into new digital systems found that doing this would not increase the accuracy or reliability of the current systems that were employed on the battleship, despite the fact that they were more than 70 years old at the time, leading to a recommendation of don't bother to the Congressional Committee. Now, you ask, why is this all important nowadays? The truth is that with the Ford Instruments targeting computer being used in the old battleships still to this day, despite the new Aegis systems out there. So if you think about it in more realistic terms, next time some idiot in a Fiat cuts you off in busy traffic, if you were in a World War II battleship instead of a minivan, you could put his car in a car crusher, load it into the barrel of one of your guns, and shoot it into the guy's own swimming pool 30 miles away. And that is why 70-year-old technology can still rule today.